The Carpathian Mountains of Romania, where powerful European brown bears are now thriving. Join us as we go in search of the bears and see how we film and photograph them in the wild. Along with these mega mammals, we also go in search of magical and elusive species. Shy and colorful woodland birds that are rarely seen in detailed close-up. These are the hidden treasures in this stunning corner of Romania. We're here in Romania, in the region of Transylvania, and we're here to look for some European brown bears. Apparently, we shouldn't have any issues finding them because the last estimated population was about 12,000 to 13,000 brown bears. So let's see if we can find them, amongst them some of the other wildlife as well. But out of all the European countries, why does Romania have such a strong population of brown bears? There is a surprising factor behind this. For more than 20 years, until his downfall in 1989, a communist dictator called Nicolae Ceausescu ruled Romania in a brutal manner. When he was not tormenting his own people, he was out in the countryside, hunting big animals such as the brown bears. It is estimated that Ceausescu and his friends hunted thousands of bears and other wildlife. He also banned hunting for anyone else other than himself and his chosen allies. This offered a strange protection to the bears and the other creatures that were able to survive in the wild and remote mountain forests of Romania. Fast forward to 2007, Romania joined the EU. Common European Union conservation laws meant that the bears continued to get protection, but Romania does get the controversial bear hunting quotas to manage their populations. Today, these forests are one of Europe's last remaining biodiversity havens. Stunning landscapes that are a mosaic of ancient forests, open grasslands, and traditional farmlands that are home to a significant number of wild species. It is the mountainous woodlands full of beech and oak trees that are a magical wonderland, and this is where the bears live. So how are we going to search for them?
So we're using a variety of ways to try and find wildlife while we're here in the Carpathian Mountains. We're spending some time in hides, and we're also doing quite a lot of walking through the forest to see what we can see. We're hoping that we have more success with the bears in the hides. We don't really want to see them while we're walking, but we've already seen two, a mum and her two cubs, which was a little scary, but luckily we were far away, so I think it's all fine if we do see them while we're walking. But fingers crossed for some nice up-close shots in the hides.
As we searched the forest, the bear signs were immediately obvious. Paw prints right up on the main tracks. And on foot, we heard some sounds. So we waited and set the camera up. A mother bear and her two cubs ran out of the deep forest. They crossed the road, and before we even had the time to correctly zoom out, they moved quickly onto the other side of the woods. Seeing the bears on foot was great and very encouraging, but we needed to get clear footage of them. This rich forest was full of tasty treats, so would they be willing to come out in front of the hides? So when we were planning our trip, we contacted the guide, and he said that this year might, although it is autumn, it might not be the best year to find bears, because the forest behind me, you can see, is full of beech. There are different oak trees, some pine trees, and this is a mast year. And what that means is that the trees like the beech and the oak produce these seeds in millions and millions of numbers. So the bears are feeding in there inside the forest. A lot of the birds are feeding there as well. So we might not have a good chance at the heights, but we took our chances anyway. Just wanted to show you what it means. We know what an acorn might look like, but this is what is the beech seed pod. And these are so many of them are being produced right now. The bears are feeding on them, but they are in so many large numbers that some of them will, these are the seeds that come out of that. And this is what will germinate, become a new beech tree. But the bears are after what's inside over here. Let's hope there is a nut in here, which I am opening. Bear with me. I haven't done that very neatly, but you can get the idea that this is what the bears are after, and this is the nut that they're after, and I'm sure they do it more gracefully. But this is completely edible even for humans, so I'm just gonna have it now. Has a very lovely sweet nutty flavor, like the best almond you've ever tasted. The mast here is nature's method of creating a food surplus, so that even if the nuts and seeds are eaten by animals and birds, there are plenty still left to germinate and grow into new trees. But what about finding the bears at the hides?
Okay, so spoiler alert, we did manage to see bears at the hide. It was a bit hit and miss. It was getting darker and darker, and we thought we'd missed our chance to see them, but eventually they did come down. There were 4 that came down from the forest. I think they'd been enjoying the beech nuts that Atif has just talked about. But when they came down, we were sitting in the hide, and this hide has an open window, and the bears come really close. So I really didn't enjoy being so up close and personal with the bears, but Atif absolutely loved it. And it was great, I suppose, to see them and to be able to hear them. You can really hear them eating. So enjoy this footage that we got from this really wonderful hide.
A secret and remote path led us to the hide. It overlooked a stunning segment of open landscape surrounded by a thick and deep forest. This window here is actually open. There's nothing protecting us, so if the bears want to come in, they can actually come in. Let's hope they don't, but let's see if we see them from far away. Now it was time to sit back and just wait. Birds, like the jays, were very loud, but kept their distance amongst those lush branches. More than 2 hours had passed. It was getting dark, and it looked like there would be no bears. Then suddenly, a familiar shape sauntered across. Right by the hide, and casually strolling towards the open window. This was a really close encounter. The open window allowed us to hear the sounds that the bears made. So enjoy this little segment of the sounds of the bears breathing, eating, and moving extremely close to us. The bears were slowly heading back towards the forest. Rebecca was dreading going outside of the hide, but it would soon be time for us to leave as well. As the evening closed in, we scrambled back to the car and made sure no bears followed us in the increasingly dark forest. Early next morning, and we were back in the field. In this bucolic landscape, there were more species to be discovered. So this morning we've come to see some of the other star species in the eastern Carpathian Mountains. One of them is a lesser spotted eagle, which is really great because we did not even know that was on the agenda. So that's really cool. We're hoping to see some over here this morning. Along with that, we're also hoping to see some buzzards. We are completely brown beared out. We saw, I think we've seen about 8 to 9 different brown bears, including cubs. So it's interesting because our guide has set up the food and he's had to leave because apparently the eagles are smart enough to know if a human is over here. So, but fortunately they cannot count. So that's really good. Apparently corvids can count, but we've seen magpies, so we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, let's see what we can find in this beautiful landscape in the eastern Carpathian Mountains. Let's hope for some eagles. As we waited, the stunning wildflowers and the insects kept us entertained.
We're 2 hours into waiting for the eagle and it still hasn't come yet, so fingers crossed in the next hour we get to see something.
A brave magpie did descend to the ground to feast on the food, but no sign of the eagles. It looks like they had already migrated south for the winter. Of note was some nice close-up shots of meadow pipits as they ventured very close to the hide. Undeterred, we left the hide and decided to make our way back to the forest for another star species. We were heading out to look for another bird of prey, one that has to be searched for on foot. The tall and ancient trees of the Carpathians are a perfect hiding spot for this wonderful but shy and elusive species. As we walked beneath the towering trees, it looked seemingly impossible that we would ever find it. And even if we could see it, these branches are so high that it would be really difficult to film or photograph it. But then, a shocking breakthrough. A ghostly outline appeared in the deep green foliage. The unmistakable shape of an owl calling in the deep woodland. The Ural Owl gave us only the slightest of views, but that was sufficient. The forest also hides other magnificent species. The thick forest gives them ideal spots to completely hide themselves, but it was a real joy to encounter these birds in this peaceful forest. Next morning, and the weather had taken a turn. This was going to be a cold and windy day. So this morning the weather is really bad. There's a lot of wind and it's very cloudy, as you can see. But we will still be heading out in search of a very pretty species of bird called the Wallcreeper. They're found in some limestone mountains about an hour from here. Apparently when the weather is bad they come down, so let's hope we can find them. There are also some really lovely streams and rivers that flow beneath those mountains, and that should be good for species like the dipper. So let's hope we can find them. The towering limestone cliffs of the Bikash gorges in the Hashmish Mountains seemed like a daunting place for any bird watching. But we kept our eyes peeled for any movements amongst those steep mountain walls. The Wallcreeper is an almost mythical bird, difficult to find because it blends perfectly with the color of this resolutely grey landscape. But one fine specimen had descended to the very bottom of the gorge because of the bad weather. It was fantastic to film as it dined on a tasty grub. These incredible birds are the only existing species in their genus and family. They move like a little toy as they carefully scan the rocks and the walls of mountains for any insects and worms that they can lay their beaks on. Within seconds, the Wallcreeper had moved much further away, deep into the gorge, and very soon it was completely out of sight. We then turned our attention to the stunning river flowing along the bottom of the gorge. This is a perfect place for another species specially adapted to live in these cold and fast-moving streams. It did not take us long to find it. The dipper is the only songbird that can actually swim in water. This special adaptation allows it to search for aquatic insects and larvae with great ease. 2 more fantastic sightings. Luck was on our side. So we've been very successful with the bears, but this Carpathian beech forest behind me is not just about bears. There's so much other wildlife to be found over here. Some of the other mammals we saw were red stags, and they're quite shy. Rebecca managed to get some amazing photos from one of the hides of those red stags. Red squirrels are there as well, but they're really busy feeding in the forest, so we couldn't get amazing close-up shots of them. They were quite shy. Then obviously there's so many wolves over here, but they keep moving, so they are almost like, they're called as the ghosts of these Carpathian Mountains because you never see them. And there are Eurasian lynx as well, and people who've lived over here have probably never seen a lynx in their lifetime. Our guides have rarely seen them, so we don't stand a chance of seeing them. But we did see lots of other birds, and there are some beautiful hides designed especially for the birds. One of the bear hides acted as a 2-way hide as well because there was a reflection pool, so lots of amazing birds came down over there. Some of our most memorable footage and photographs of these birds were seeing something like the missel thrush, which you never see. They're always so flighty, so high up in at the tops of the trees that you never see them. But we managed to get that really close up, those details which you would never see if you're just out walking in the wild. Hawfinches just came down. You can really admire those beautiful big beaks, and they were drinking up, and that was a fleeting moment as well. Great spotted woodpeckers, really up close, amazing footage of them, fleeting glimpses of crested tits, all the other common birds you would expect to see, like blue tits, great tits, chaffinches, and the Eurasian jays. They are so flighty, and they have the anxiety of 100 anxious flyers put together. Out in the wild, you'd never see them, or they would never pose for you, but from this hide we got such amazing clear details of these birds. So it was a really great time that we spent over here, and got lots of amazing footage. Beyond the birds and the animals, the Carpathians are also home to some stunning flora. We were extremely fortunate to come across a mountain meadow carpeted in autumn crocuses. So while we have also been looking for wildlife like the bears and the other wildlife and the birds, what we've been really amazed by is this stunning landscape of the Carpathian Mountains. We are in the eastern Carpathians, to be specific, near the Harghita Mountains, and this is a mainly Hungarian-speaking region of Romania. Very distinct housing styles, and we'll show you the accommodation we are in. It's kind of like a homestay where we are staying at. It's been amazing food, great scenery that we can walk around, close access to all the walking paths and the hides. We've been amazed by the wildflowers that are still there. We are here in September. We came here because it's autumn, hoping to see the bears who might be fattening up for the winter. But look at these amazing autumn crocuses. They are just finishing now, but we got some really amazing footage of the crocuses. Lots of other wildflowers as well, chicory, even oxeye daisies that are alive, and lots of clover, eryngium. There's so many wildflowers that we still saw. And so if you're just looking for wildflowers and insects, the Eastern Carpathian Mountains, or the Carpathian Mountains in general, are just so stunning. And the leaves are turning as well. So we've really enjoyed just in a week when we came, the leaves were still green, and now a lot of them have turned into their beautiful autumn color. Who knows, in 2 or 3 weeks time, it's going to be such a amazing kaleidoscope of color in this forest. So yeah, the landscape has just been breathtaking. We stayed at a lovely accommodation called Erdeli Kinche. In Hungarian, it means the treasure of Transylvania, and it really was a treasure in the mountains for us. It is run by a wonderful couple, and we enjoyed some scenic views from the accommodation. Great food and lovely walks, plus easy access to so many of the hides. The rich forests of Romania are being logged relentlessly, and this was visible even from the heights, as trucks laden with chopped trees passed us. It seemed unlikely any bears would come out through this disturbance. But we were pleasantly surprised that they did. The most memorable sighting of all the bears were 2 adorable young cubs that played around as their mum kept a watchful eye. It was an unforgettable sight. The 2 cubs looked extremely fluffy and cute as they jostled with each other. We were convinced that Romania definitely had an extremely healthy population of bears. When so much of the wildlife in Europe is under threat, this is something that the country should be proud of. However, there is also a question of how the people and bears coexist in this region.
So bears mostly live up in the mountains and they don't really come down to the town that much. But when they do come down, they can be really quite destructive. They are really tempted by things like honey. So if people are keeping bees and apple trees, and apparently they love plums. So plum trees that are fruiting, they'll definitely come down. And then when it gets really bad, they can come down and rummage through bins. So one of the ways in which people try to mitigate against bears coming into their house and coming and taking things from the bins and other things inside the garden is by putting electric fences, which seems a bit extreme, but actually it seems to be a good way for people to live kind of in harmony with the bears here and not have them there'd be too much conflict with the bears.
This corner of the Carpathian Mountains is a treasure trove of wild wonders, a highly underrated corner of Europe that should be high on your list if you want to see the European brown bears amongst a supporting cast of equally fantastic species.